My New Year greeting comes out of me being busy dealing with a variety of issues on a daily basis. And this one is going to be like done in urge because my mind is flowing for another day elsewhere. But I'm going to manage, I hope I'm going to manage to make that much effort to focus today for the occasion and provide some kind of summary of the issues that we need to deal today as a planet and that we need to be alerted as a planet together. I have been recently alerted enormously on the subject of trading kids, of which I have not been aware enough. And we tend to be today to find ourselves helpless actually when it comes to these mass movements that appear to be very much coordinated by a bunch of people that we appear can't control. And very often when people can't control something, they just turn their back on the other side, their head on the other side, because they feel otherwise they feel helpless, as they cannot help the mega scale of events as it is bombarding a country, creating mass of immigrants that then start walking on the streets of foreign countries and become easy target to variety of local politicking. I can't help on the specifics on any of such physical movements because I found myself somehow much more useful if I continue to point out to the major misconceptions and major wrong ideological solutions, to point at the main issues of misunderstanding or obsoleteness and show certain indicators, point to certain indicators that would bring us main directives. I'm going to start with the issues. It appears to me, number one issue, appears to me that we have biodiversity issues on the planet and that the biodiversities might go into some kind of extreme positions, which on the other side affect the overall behavior on the state level. We as a planet therefore need to prepare planetary level of program that is going to first and foremost seal on the planetary identity and planetary integrity as a culture, including cultural integrity, that is some kind of common standards of behavior, common standards of value systems, and how we conduct the human protocol on the planet. I have crafted my constitutional work, which I introduced, and it is posted on YouTube channel, where I pointed out main aspects of my constitutional work, where I recognized the importance of the configuration of the realm, respectfully pointing at it. I respectfully pointed at that, and through my entire work, that this is a wonderful actual physical planet. It is happening as a physical platform, as a physical design, and if such words exist at all and make some sense, as a matter of, I don't know, whatever configuration, it is a configuration that is happening within the solid material dimension, and as such, therefore, exist as a planetary protocol and exist as a planetary level of realm. I don't think it is to some kind of small percentage of people, therefore, to argue disrespectfully about what represents realm to 7 billion of humans. So let's bring statistics forward and let's notice the size of your arguing when you start with some kind of scientific snobs continue to question the making of the planet rather than to gratefully live and participate in creation of life on this wonderful planet. Therefore, point number one in my constitution was given to the wonderful realm. Point one, we call Earth. Point 2, protocol human recognized, ready-made, or emerging as a matter of our engaged cultural selection in the times. I would notice that things in that direction have been overdone to the point of us finding ourselves today in England within some kind of Disneyland protocol, which ended up to look too much of a joke for something that is rather serious subject, as it is protocol human. And I don't know how far people found themselves indulged, entitled, and invited on that level of politicking, but one can notice that certainly happened under a large amount of alcohol in last century, somewhere in Hollywood and America. And today, altogether, we question capacity of America to be a serious country for serious issues. Our protocol human is next very important protocol after the protocol realm of Earth, and no one should ever joke about it. Also, it came to my realization that someone is making somewhere on territories of Australia, New Zealand, or USA again, and even Britannia, that someone is making reference, maybe somewhere in rural Europe as well, making reference to agriculture and farming when speaking of humanity, obviously somewhere maybe even in Middle East. Also, they look to me a bit numb and a bit idiotic about any of such subjects. In any case scenario, the hierarchy of each of the cultural settings is obviously nothing to be underestimated. There is a solid percentage of upper aristocratic level of population in Middle East as well, especially on the levels of Palestine, for example, or Israel, even Mongolians at the time. There is a couple of solid Saudi Arabians, there is a couple of solid groups out there that would suggest that there is some kind of much more of mental awareness about the protocol human itself and managing it. Although one would hardly generate such opinion in the present time. Well, when you find yourself somewhere on the farming lands of Australia and New Zealand or USA, you don't end up to be that much surprised if someone there find themselves vividly discussing the protocol human from nothing less but or more but farming psychology. Now that today has become, I think, very much alert to our 20th century inherited consciousness that was going very high somewhere in the jazz clubs of New York and flying very high on that note, similar note, in somewhere with the gentlemanship of England, ignoring from the position of a well-established high society of Western world, ignoring the rural Western population and what the rural Western population actually really talks about. With that level of ignorance, they have admitted to the rest of the world as well to promote upper vibes and bringing us all together today, almost at the end of the world, or certainly seriously confronted with such possibility. Most of the people out there would not know even for what reasons and on what ground. And there is nothing worse than to find yourself under such promise and rather clueless how to understand that and how to prevent it. Today, knowledge is not something specific. Today, it has become very much, we are working today very much on approving it or regenerating it again, reapproving it again, before to call it a knowledge or before to call it intelligence. Intelligence is not going to be intelligent enough if not in the context on which we all need to agree today on this earth. Being, as I have pointed out with my constitution, this realm material as it is in this wonderful design, which most of us are not seeing it in black and white, I hope, are capable to seeing it in all of the colors in which actually is happening. Also, I have to notice that has recently become mocked. The colors on the planet has become mocked, and I will need to question by whom. Would it not be by people that cannot recognize colors? In which case scenario, we would not be speaking exactly about human to begin with. If there is such degree of mocking the colors of the planet, today being associated with some kind of homosexual society, and then majority of people thrown in some kind of masquerade of the subject itself, we will need to question the black and white protocol itself, how far that goes and what on earth that means. Because I am born on the black and white territories, popular as black and white territories, and I'm going to tell you, these are the regions from where the entire Renaissance, most of the Renaissance creators have been born actually. I'm going to show you people living on these territories know very well how to recognize colors. And that your perception of our territories as black and white is simply wrong. That is simply wrong interpretation of the central Mediterranean plateau, where colors actually in contrary get a bit more intense than somewhere on Nordic territories, arguably, where less of the colors would be on display. And people would be less aware of the colors as well as our northern territories, where predominant colors one is going to see are white and blue, and not much of any other. Maybe it doesn't go with in black and white, but certainly it goes in white and blue. I'm going to call that not sufficiently representative to the making of our planet. Let's decide to top it up somewhere from positions of NATO with some kind of arbitrage on life and death. No, we don't have that much of black and white on territories, unless we are talking about melting snow on the land. But I think we certainly, which is nothing of a permanent, but we certainly can talk about much more permanency of white and blue within the simplicity of the colors. Such people might not need to comprehend the rest of the colors. They might not need to respect them because they mean nothing to them. But I really have problem to understand why someone is promoting that much of black and white on earth when such lands in real terms actually do not exist. Yet it has become the epitome of the most ancient political philosophy of our times. Accordingly, the code of human continue to be our challenge of the present times. What also continue to irritates me, my kids would say here, again, it is all about you. What appeared to me also as very much irritating is that people on this planet continue to, in some kind of drunk mode agreement, continue to be ignorant about the real reasons for a variety of problems, continue to hold on second place what are the real reasons about the times in which we live, what are the real reasons of the problems that are confronting the times in which we live. It appears to me that people are very much accommodated to serve with someone else to explain to them what are the problems and what are the solutions, and then they get on the field to play the theater. But when it comes to themselves to identify what are the real issues and to be much more responsible about dealing with them, they are almost nowhere to find. People either pretend not to understand the real issues, or they really do not search for them because they have become accommodated someone else to do that for them and to make the list of issues so they can start solving them. But when it comes to them making by themselves the list of issues, appears to be that they are nowhere to find. It is also very annoying, I would say, that most of nations continue to babble about their national perspectives, where nothing on this world, especially in the 21st century, depends on national perspective whatsoever. I mean, you simply would not be in position to do anything on national level if you don't need with problems on in the wider region. In this case scenario, actually planetary level, because if as for example some war event happens somewhere in the world, it's going to affect everything around you, and so much about your national perspective. If you're not attending the planetary protocol, you basically devalue your national perspective. In the way how one can arguably say the one that do not take care about the condition that is happening in their community would be wasting time building their house and looking after their house if they do not take care of the community itself. Yet many people, especially on territories from where I am born, continue to manifest their political senses via their national history and sense of national integrity, and either they pretend or really continue to be absolutely not interested about any of the worldwide issues to recognize them in much more serious dynamics. Maybe people just don't have time about such matters. That is why I'm arguing that you have to devote certain percentage of scholars from your population that are actually going to be engaged on such level of following the political stages on international ground. It is not enough just to make diplomatic centers. You have to have also national platform from where you're going to basically monitor the planetary politics in the way how you any boat out there on the open sea will need to monitor the water, the sea, in order to notice what's happening around. So the boat that will need time to change the course of its movement will need time to change the direction of its movement. That is exactly what state is a mega protocol, and a state will need time to change the course and the direction of its movement. And that is why you need to have people that are going to follow the international movement, so it will prevent on time such kind of larger catastrophes or stress for nations. Or it's not just enough to invest in your millionaires and billionaires. It's not just enough to think about financial markets. It's just not enough. It's just not enough. And then don't worry, we are going to call Henry IX and he is going to sort it, or she is going to sort it, or Harriet is going to sort it for us. You just continue building up your wealth and making your buildings bigger and bigger. We have our genius. We are going to just dial the number. That's exactly on what ground, on what level I found Western politics and Western cultures, and I would be a liar if I don't say that. That is where I found you. And you're not going to sell to me balloonies today. You will just not manage to do that successfully. Not today, not anymore. And they have tons avalanche of issues. Their keys, as I realize, are being traded out there. their kids are being traded as they're not even humans. They have been treated as disposable as they are not even humans. How on earth you can be angry at someone like that? At someone that's so desperate? And that is why I end up just being angry every single day. Because you can't claim out there the crown and right to hold and manipulate information and then come to me and tell me, but I have a little problem. Otherwise, I hold the crown. Oh, now it's your problem. And what I am? A holy ghost? Am I a holy ghost on this earth? Who I am? What I am to you? A holy wood, a holiness, a holy spirit. Well, it happened to be that I identified some Olymp and some Olympia sitting out there in ancient history, some Cleopatra sitting out in ancient history, some Themis, goddess of absolute justice, sitting in ancient history. Before someone decided to declare man almighty on this earth, there was quite of a woman on the upper levels as well. And I think it has become, we have reached a time today on this earth where we will need to start talking about these women that have been living in the past on a higher vibe with the men. As I will need today to get a bit of a different name than a Holy Ghost. As I understand their kids and problems, kids are being neglected on this earth. I am a mother. I am symbol of a mother on this planet. And when kids are being neglected on this earth by society of fathers, it is time to act. As mothers and as women, I dedicate these greetings especially to women and to a mother, to all of us, to stand on any trade of humans and kids today, and kids as humans, to help out the kids and the trading of humans. There is no any other greeting that I would like to make but that one. There is, however, a couple of more aspects that would need to be mentioned today. It is a summary of issues that we need to all become aware every single day as I wake up. The other is I'm going to talk about how serious it has become for each of the nations to be challenged with the responsibility to feed their people. As the hunger should not be a problem to any of the nations. I would condition existence of a state upon ability of a nation to feed its people. If a nation does not have ability to feed its people, nation cannot be created because it end up trading its kids or someone else's kids, and end up trading people because they cannot feed their own people. So if nation cannot feed its people, then it is fair to leave the management to centers that can actually provide for the people. One would say you will never find someone to take care of you if that someone is on some kind of biodiversity list. That is going to return us to historic contours of your territories, because if you don't take care about historic contours on your territories, then as we speak, there would be some kids in some other parts of the territories that would be former kids of your lands, that would be traded out there on the backbone of your imperial flag, and you would just pretend you don't care about these kids, or you really would not care. But if you do not care about kids of your former territories, then would you have right to declare imperial history and imperial flag? If your kids continue to be number one traded people on the planet, and you do nothing to prevent that, would you have right to your flag? Today, you as a nation will need to be honest in your capacity to defend that flag, or to call for people that can actually do that work and really defend your flags. Today it comes to returning to being genuine again, because our problems are real and they need a real solution. If you're incapacity to solve them, walk higher. If you're not, slide where it is your place, in the silence. And allow to one that can solve the problems in the size in which they happen, for the sake of everyone. Do not call yourself a leader on the blunt mode, on empty promises. We need solutions, not people with their egocentric, megalomaniac nonsense. We don't need these people. We need solutions. And they should be just a symbol of the solution. If they are bigger than a symbol of the solution itself, if they are bigger than the problem itself, if they're not bringing a message as a reference to a solution, then they should not bother to show off their faces either. If their face is not a reminder to all of us that we have problems that we need to solve. Also, these people probably have managed to look like that for sure. If there is no promise for solution, people should not accept positions. For God's sake. You apply to drive a plane if you can drive a plane. If you can't drive a plane, to apply for driving a plane would be a criminal act. Yes, it would be a criminal act. To apply for position of driving a plane if you can't drive a plane is criminal act. I claim that full-mindedly. And any leader on this planet should accept that responsibility accordingly. If you can drive a plane, then apply for a position. If you can't drive a plane, then you don't apply for a position. Now, shall we also focus on trying to define what in this case scenario is a plane? Yes? Can we agree what in that sentence is a plane exactly? From my perspective, that is a state. From their perspective, it would be person as it is myself. Now, can we, I'm asking honest question, can we, nations, accept today someone to declare such kind of presidency on such promise and on such reference? And all of you pretend like a bunch of moles that are not aware of it. Or you are so much incapable to actually just simply spell out the real problems today. The real problems today is not just need for political leadership, but need for persons that can actually spell out a list of issues. As that is how you would know at least you found the one that can get serious. Accordingly, I will conclude. Top issues on the planet would be biodiversity. It is especially strong in Middle East. It will need us to pull out the Constitution of Earth, seriously sit in United Nations, bring forward, do we have United Nations or we don't have United Nations that can actually speak Earth? And can actually speak serious about bio issues. If United Nations is not capable to spell out such basic issues, as appear to me that it is too much in the past about any of it, we need something much more orthodox, something much more Olympic, something much more Olympian, that is going to spell out the issues in the way how I'm doing that today. Bio issue, biodiversity on Earth as issue, it will need to be addressed in the specificness of either a tail mark or where is the standard on which we do not compromise, and then we question what on earth means a tail mark. Is it a past time or is it something that is ongoing? This is quite big issues. This is quite a big issue. And I don't think that we should allow one single nation, as it is USA, for example, to answer that question for us. It is the planetary question, and planet will need to answer it as a planet. I have also established that by the way how appears to be that the planet is evolving, increasingly provinces becoming stronger and stronger, we have a situation where the center has been extracted by the provinces increasingly, and provinces become a question mark of biodiversity or actual tail marks that continue to suck out the actual central planetary identity where civilization actually happened. Today we have, therefore, not just question of biodiversity, but also the fact that our protocol human, which might be event that happened somewhere within the central ancient plateau as a matter of some kind of constitutional planetary protocol in the way how I still recognize it today, it might be that the promises ended up consuming such civilizational solutions and such civilizational recipe books. In any case scenario, I have found provinces today much more being consumers of such civilizational cooking books than promoters of some kind of Earth identity protocol by themselves. I have not found here Earth protocol promotion. I have found Earth protocol being consumed as a civilizational parameter. Well, one can argue provinces are not the territories where universities have been in past emerging, where philosophers have been walking, where they have been crafting the ideology of humanity, and so on and so on. In other words, we might talk about issues that exist elsewhere on the planet, not just here. But the fact is that these territories continue to be fed by our civilizational parameters and the way how we build civilization much more as ideological civilizational concept in Europe. Which means that is okay, that building ideologically civilization or civilizational configuration is important event and that we should continue doing it. But we also should be aware how we assist provinces to participate in this planetary event. And eventually, what would be the issues? Do we have bio issue as well? Or we have the issue of neglect? And so far, what I could have noticed is that we have issue of neglect. I live here 20 and more years. All I can notice that here the main issue is neglect. There was British monarchy 100 years active on the Commonwealth territories. All I can see is neglect, neglect, neglect. That is not monarchy I'm talking about. That is not political house I'm talking about. Hiding out there like little kids within their big house. Or no one can blame them for trying to preserve something. Let's try to be nice here. But if one cannot be big as it is the time in which one lives, we should know one is not up to its call. One is just not up to its call. I mean, it's really hard to judge in one's closing, in one speech that should carefully last no more than half an hour. How far we can discuss now the success of Commonwealth of last century to save Western platform, at least within some kind of cultural prefix, to mesmerize the planet, to seduce the planet, for what one should give them enough credit, and I have. But the fact is that we need to move on and be in the present time. And in the present time, I have happened. I have happened with this ideology that continued to be vividly stronger than of the last century, speaking of First and Second World War, post-war ideologies, continue to be continuation of that dialogue and conversation, bringing forward all of the previous times as well. It has become one mega conversation in any single aspect. And Britannia today become just simply shrinked upon this mega conversation. And it means what it means. Empires get born and empires shrink upon the new time and the vibes of new time. However, I discovered one empire that appeared to be not being shrinked, but being simply prevented to continue to exist. And that is Olymp, which is, I believe, the real Atlantis, story of real Atlantis. And I believe that it was attacked actually physically. That is the very much associated to the history of ancient Macedonia. It was actually physically attacked rather than ceased to exist because it was not relevant. I don't think that that empire stopped because it was not relevant, but it stopped because it was physically attacked. However, fact is that today I found England little and Olymp mega. And I'm not going to pretend that it is other way around, because I think I have given enough credit to the history already. And I think I have been enough respectful to that history already. And I have not found enough respect in return, which gives me more freedom to insist on what it feels I need to insist on my Olymp, without regrets and without apology anymore. There are kids being traded out there on the planet of two millenniums under spell of fathers, which translate into further. There is all sorts of physical and metaphysical issues that we need to deal with, including that one. Why father sounds as further? And if father sounds as further, and we do not have established a planet of mothers, then we are in serious trouble. And our kids are in serious trouble. So I'm doing this greeting today with high accent to our kids and our responsibility to protect them on first account and to address the history of fathers that sounds as further when in English spelled out, which becomes society that does not take care of kids. That society simply does not take care of kids. In that society, we have entertainment industry to large scope. We have all sorts of rock and roll musicians that are all drug addicts. Kids are being second place because the grown-up entertainment is more important. These are societies that do not have culture of setting their kids on first place. On our territories, in our cultural setting, our ancient Macedonian, ancient European cultural setting, and present European cultural setting, we put kids on first place. We put kids on first place. And even if when they become ready to go out, then we start dealing with the society. Because you cannot exactly keep your kid on the leash. At some point of time, your kid will need to get out on the streets. At that stage, at that point, you will need to start taking care of the streets. Because, obviously, on this planet, that has not been settled yet. Certainly not from perspective of mother and from perspective of society that put kids and young people on first place. Somebody is going to tell me, we have in Middle East out there younger population. Yes. And at what degree of mastership exactly? At what degree of mastership? It's not just about to have young population. It is about to have society where every aspect of life is properly attended and responsible. It's not just to be young, it is to be properly functional society in any aspect of your life. And that's not happening in Middle East so far. That's not happening so far in Middle East. Middle East cannot be leader of this world today. And Russia north of Middle East, Russia, the one sitting north of Middle East, neither can be also leader of the modern world because they are a bit stuck being north of Middle East. I'm not going to play my cards on Russians north of Middle East rather than east of Europe. As of what Russia, I appear to become now aware of, is rather. Russia is not east of Europe. Russia is, I have to notice, north of Middle East. Now that Russia is not going to surface my world or my countries or my family for that matter. And also I'm going to be grateful for all of the assistance provided, which I think would have enough right to expect to continue, because Moscow is still quite Europeanish city. My trust in Russia has shrinked equally as my size of my perspective of England and my perspective of America was always a bit of a balloony, so that has not changed at all. But of England and of Russia, that changed as well, at the point of honest disappointment, which makes you at the end of the day to feel a bit more, not just lonely, but also more responsible for the outcome of this world and where we are today. Not as only as Europeans, but as a mainstream civilizational platform that is responsible for further development of this planet at some kind of cultural, conceptual lines of the value system drawn in any new time. Although in last century you all have fallen on the exam called hippie movement and rock and roll music, and have allowed enormous amount of young people to be dismantled, to be vanishing from the surface of earth. And you as parents have failed. You have failed in last century to protect your kids against the drug addiction. You have failed. That is going to question today, make me to question how much you as a planet even take care of kids. It's going to make me to question, I'm going to question today how much this planet is a planet of parents at all, or it is a planet of self-indulged creatures. As you can see here, biodiversity has become question of cultural identity and easily become question of planetary identity and planetary order. That is my point number 2. Question of planetary identity and planetary order. My issue number 3 I have chosen for this occasion would be recognizing of importance of cultural safety and promoting proper value system. Responsibly attending it as well, because if you don't attend it, then it would be pointless declaring it either. On that note, I'm going to wish you a better future and call you again, most responsibly, that we all together start solving the issue urgently about trading of kids that is taking place at the moment. We need to immediately prevent further escalation of such practices, either as a cultural or economic issue, and to remind today European countries as most trouble at the moment, not only on the level of cultural identity and economic survival, but on the level of also identifying the measurement of what lifestyle should be actually accepted as a European standard. Much more modesty and much more returning on the level of national responsibility of feeding your own people. Therefore, returning to agriculture, returning to organic gardens, returning to growing your own food, returning to spending less, being responsible. I think these are movements that are happening all over Europe. Shrinking in terms of indulgence, becoming more responsible, and taking care of your kids. Please take care of your kids, or learn how to look after kids before you decide to have kids. I would not also like to scare Europeans not to have kids, because that looks to me a bit of a lunatic. Actually, I think that's lunatic. And maybe people of Northern Europe should start moving somewhere on Mediterranean coast, or at least neighboring European countries, not to be exposed to too much different cultures where they would end up to be losers, but maybe on a bit more south countries, because I think that their sensitive mental state will need to be mixed with much more stronger continental breed. So we straighten the Nordic territories, which mentally might be a bit much more vulnerable to more challenging issues and more challenging times that are ahead of us. So Europe, straighten genetically the Nordic population, consolidate on the Central Plateau, and consolidate on the Mediterranean land, where I'm very soon heading, and hoping to return Olymp to European plateau and to planetary perspective, using majorly European infrastructure and European assistance. Earthians, salute!